Legends tell of a glowing, blood-red gemstone named Og's Blood. Down into the depths of the dungeon you go to look for it, but survival may not be so simple.
Hey everybody, this is Strategywizard and
Crazycraft.
And today we're going to be explaining how to play and then review Mini Rogue. This is either single player or cooperative two-player game where you're basically delving into a dungeon, and it's kind of like a roguelike video game in case you've ever experienced that. Otherwise, don't worry about that reference. We'll show you how to play and you'll be able to judge what you think. And basically it's a fantasy theme. You're coming down trying to find Og's remains, which is supposed to be some really powerful relic. And in the process of going through this dungeon, you're going to pick
treasure.
Yeah, there's going to be lots of treasure. You're going to pick a character. In this case, we're assuming that someone picked the Crusader. There's an optional combat stance card that we like to use. You have your basic tile here that shows your experience, your armor, your food, your gold, your potions, and your health. Each different class has different starting stats, different special abilities. Now we have the expansion.
We do have the expansion, so we have a little bit more.
Yeah, that's Depths of Damnation, and this little symbol designates that it's from the expansion, so we got 3 extra characters here. You can play with either of these tokens to represent yourself, or they give 2 little meeples that you can use instead. But either way, this is your basic starting setup. Then you're going to decide if you want to do the dungeon or the tower. The tower is the flip side. It's not a lot different, but there's a little bit of a difference.
Yeah, but we like the dungeon more.
Yeah, the dungeon is like the default, and it just seems more thematically awesome as you go deeper into the floors and fight bosses. So then you're going to have a deck of cards which represents different rooms, traps, monsters, and you'll set them out in a little grid like this. And then the final boss is going to be always here, face down, and there will be 3 other bosses, which there's several different ones, and these are, no, not that one. This is an expansion one, and this is an expansion one. You'll shuffle this and have 3 other bosses that you'll put on top. So whatever 3 you would put here, and that will mean that you'll have a boss encounter on these floors, and then finally the final boss here way at the bottom. So you're at room 1, there won't be a boss fight. You're going to turn over the first card in the dungeon. In this case, it's a monster.
Not very lucky.
Yeah, it's a bad start. So Nathan, what is it what do all these symbols mean?
So he does 2 damage and 12 health if you're playing 2 players, or if 2 people are fighting him, he has 12. If there's only 1, he has 6 health, and if you kill them, you get 1 experience.
That's right. So fighting monsters seems bad because they can hurt you, but experience is a very important stat in this game. So killing monsters can be very useful because normally when you start, you're going to have 1 die, one, I guess, action or character die that represents what you're doing, your combat, your attack, or trying to get successes in events. The black die represents the dungeon and effects that the dungeon has. But as you level up, once you get to 6 and then 18 experience, you'll actually gain an extra die apiece, which means you can start really rolling a lot and getting a lot more powerful. So you want to level up, so fighting monsters is useful. Now, as it goes along, you'll notice we ignored the bottom 3 rows here. Well, as you get to different floors, right now we're on floor 1, then there's floor 2, floor 3, floor 4.
He gets more powerful as he goes.
Considerably. In fact, once you get to floor 3 and floor 4, he actually poisons you in addition to doing far more damage. So, status effects can happen in the game. If you're cursed, what happens?
If you're cursed, you have to roll this with the other dice.
Yeah, every time you roll, you got to roll the curse die.
And if you got a number, of course, 5, this actually goes down to a 4 as long as you get the skull.
That's right. If you roll the skull, you're cursed, and all your rolls decrease.
But as long as you get a blank, then nothing happens. You still get 5.
Yeah, but you stay cursed until you're able to use either a holy potion or get a blessing or some other thing that heals you. Now, there's also poison. If you get poisoned, what happens?
If you get poisoned, you take damage.
Yeah, you'll just like the curse die, you'll roll it with your other dice, and if it comes up here,
you get hurt for 1 damage.
Yep. So poison, as long as you're rolling it, you have a chance of just your health slowly dwindling away.
Yeah,
so
it's not that much, but still, you need to get rid of it because it adds up fast.
That's right. You want to avoid status effects. But basically, that's going to be a lot of the game is moving down, fighting monsters, getting status effects, trying to heal yourself and stay alive long enough to level up to get more powerful so you have more dice, and ultimately get more items. Once you've beaten something, let's just say you beat this monster, and you'll use this to track their health, and I guess I should say, in combat, which is very simple, you're going to basically roll the black die for the opponent. You'll roll your white dice, assuming right now at level 1, or way down here, wimpy level, you'll have 1 white die. You'll roll them both simultaneously. If the enemy rolls a 1, it's a miss. If they roll 2 through 5, it's a hit, and they'll do how much damage it says on their card for the floor that you're on. But if they roll a 6, they do the same thing except they pierce your armor. The Crusader starts with 1 armor, so he takes 1 less damage normally than anyone else. But if they get a 6, they pierce through all your armor and do their damage no matter how much armor you have. In the good guy's case, an X is a miss. Then any number you roll is how much damage you do, but if you roll a 6, that's a critical, which means you get to roll it again, which means that you can keep going and doing more damage. If you roll another 6, you get to do another 6, and you keep on rolling, so you keep adding. So criticals are amazing. Now, the other thing that's important to know in combat, you'll be knocking their health down as you go along. You can also use potions, fire potions, and poison potions that help do damage, and if you're doing 2-player, you alternate.
Yeah.
So 1 player will attack, and then the monster attacks them, and then the next player attacks, and the monster attacks them.
And if you're in the same place, let's just say you had a healing potion, you can actually share your healing with the other person.
That's right. So you can work together and cooperate. And the other thing is, let's just say, after killing this monster, if we decided to go separate ways, his health is only going to be for a single player. The only time you use the health for 2 players is if both of you are there fighting the same monster. Otherwise, it's not too hard if you're by yourself. And you always can go right or down whenever you go to a new area. So, for example, we can't go backwards. And let's just say later, Crazycraft went down here, and then over here, he can't go back up here. So you're constantly having to go down or right, which is going to eventually get you to the exit. Now, apart from monsters, which is a very important thing, there's other little events like the library. Okay, so this right here, basically what this means is whenever you roll, for the black right here shows that you're going to roll a black die. So you'll roll the black die, but you also have to roll a white die, because this basically means if you get a success, which means the 5 or 6, because they have the stars, or whatever you want to call it, the burst around the number, then you'll be able to modify your black die result by plus or minus 1, which means, let's just say this would mean if you rolled a 1, it's a mimic book, that means you actually have to fight a monster. But if it's a 3, you get to recover it from your special ability. So if you use one of your special abilities, you'll lose it until you get to the next floor, or next room, or area, I should say. Well, this means you could recover it and get to use an ability again. Or in the case of sketches, you get 1 experience point. Or in the case of the secret passage, you get to, this isn't from the expansion, this lets you get a lore card, which gives you, I'm not even going to show those because that might be too much of a spoiler thing, but it's kind of like a little story plot thing where you get to make a choice and do something interesting that could get you some kind of reward or punishment, depending on what actions you take. So, but if you get a success, you can modify the black die to help get you where you want to be and avoid bad things. And let's see some other possible rooms. Oh, traps. Okay, so what happens if you're in a trap?
You have to roll, in this case, you have to roll a success to get something good.
Yeah, if you roll success, then you actually avoid the trap and you get a reward. In this case, either a potion, some armor, or another different type of potion, the perception potion.
Or for the number of stairs you're on, you lose food, or -1 sealed, or you get poisoned. And
lose health.
And lose health for every floor.
Yeah, so basically, if you don't get a success, then whatever black die result you rolled, that's the penalty that you suffer. So traps, very dangerous, but if you're lucky... you could actually get something positive.
You could.
More traps that have different... See, each trap has different kind of problems. Like this actually makes you drop down to the next floor, which causes some damage. And then we have... monsters that actually give you better rewards. See, this kind of you don't get any. Well, I say it's better. I guess it's debatable. If you get this kind of reward, that means you actually go to the treasure card, which means you automatically get 2 money, and then you get to roll and try to get something else as well. So that's huge. Now, eventually, you'll fight a boss. I put them somewhere. I'm sure. So whenever you fight a boss, you both have to get there at the same time, no matter what. So in a 2-player game, you'll always have the really high health. Otherwise, in a single-player game, you'll use this, and they'll have different status effects they cause. And if you win, you get a lot of experience and get treasure. So as you go along, you're moving around, let's just say in the first area you actually wouldn't fight the boss. It's only when you get to the second area that there'll be a boss fight. So in any of these areas that don't have a boss, well, all that happens is you have to lose 1 food because you're hungry hippo. You recover your abilities and you move down to the next area. So you just keep going. If you fight a boss, after you beat the boss, you do the same thing. You have to give up a food, refresh your skills, and go down to the next area. So you're constantly making progress, trying to get to the bottom and survive to kill the final boss. That really is the basic game.
Yeah, that's the basic game.
So let's just look at some of the other card types. You can have a treasure that's a mimic, which has the potential of giving you just good things, but there's also chances you'll have to fight a monster. Anytime a card like this has you fight a monster, what do you fight?
You have to fight, you're like, ooh, rewards, but you actually have to fight the ghost.
That's right. It's like a generic enemy that you have to fight anytime there's a card that tells you have to fight a monster. And of course, just like any other monster, the deeper you are, the harder it is. Okay, we've got, in the expansion, we have the secret passage, which makes it to where you get to draw a lore card. These are really great. I mean, these always give you something awesome. For one, you automatically refresh your skills if you go here.
Which is really powerful.
And then you choose any one of those. Get a food, get an experience, heal 2 health. And there's shrines where you can donate a coin to help yourself try to get something good. There's other kinds of treasure. There's all kinds, and then there's Bandit. The Bandit from the expansion, you can pay him money or food so that he just leaves you alone, or you can say, forget it, I'm going to fight you and beat you into the ground and get that experience.
Yeah, and as in the level of the more floors you're on, the higher cost you have to give them. The more money you have to give them.
Oh, it sure is, and even food. At first it's 1, and then it's 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the farther you go, it costs more to pacify him, and he also does more damage if you choose to fight him.
Yeah.
Making him quite dangerous. Then there's merchants, where you can spend your gold. So you get lots of treasure, might as well spend it, and you can even sell things. You can sell a potion or a shield to gain money. So merchants are coming really handy.
They do.
And there's different kinds of merchants that you can fight. Let's see, is there anything else in particular in here? There's another really interesting one, the Hermit, where you can help him out by losing experience, but you get some money. Or you can share a meal with the Hermit, lose some food, get some health. Or you can tunnel, and you can basically skip further ahead if you want to try to move along through the dungeon more quickly. But that's pretty much what you're going to be doing in this game. You're going to be using your dice to see what the different effects are in combat, or in finding out what the effects of the different rooms are, and building up, getting potions that can heal you or help you in different ways, or hurt the enemy. Get experience, get armor, get health, and to be honest, it's always pretty tough getting to the bottom because everything gets a lot harder. But if you really persevere, you can do it. We have won a few times at this point.
Yeah, maybe 2 or 3.
I think so. But it is a challenge. And they have different ways you can modify the game to make it harder, or if you want. Oh, and what about this? Let's talk about this before we close. How does that work?
Okay, so there's aggressive, balanced, and defensive. Aggressive basically makes it to where instead of missing on just an X, you actually miss on a 2 too. But you can also do a critical with a 5. Normally, to do a critical, you have to do a 6.
Yeah. So with aggressive, you miss more often, but you get more critical hits, which is critical. So it's risky, but it has the potential to be super powerful.
Balance, which is just basically the normal mode. You know, you get 6, you get the critical, and then just the next and next. And then defensive, this is in a sense the best because it doesn't hurt you, and it just basically makes it to where you have more defense.
Yeah, you can't get a critical hit, but you do have 1 extra armor to protect yourself, which is powerful. Awesome. So that's how that works. That's an optional variant that we like to use just because it makes sure you have more strategic options in the game. So that's how you play, and now we'll go up and we'll tell you what we think. Okay, so now you can see how we play the game. Here's what we think. So first of all, do you think that the component quality is good?
I'd say so.
What do you like the most?
Honestly, I do just like these player boards a lot because they really just get the job done for what you're doing, and it just, the health, the gold, I mean, it just serves like every purpose of the roguelikes.
Well, yeah, that is actually a great thing about it. It gives you that RPG feel where you have inventory, which is the potions, you got your gold, you got your armor, you have your experience and health. I mean, it has
very simple to set up. You just get the board, boom, it's done, and of course just get the tiles, experience.
And it's super thick. I mean, this thing's and the card quality is good. It's adequate.
Yeah.
I mean, no linen finish, but they're still decently thick, so that's nice. They're not like cheap, flimsy cards. And the dice are nice. They're all engraved, and the fact that there's custom dice I like. I mean, the dice are really nice. So, and the artwork is nice. So a lot of good stuff there. As far as, I do want to mention this. On the back of the player board, there's a campaign mode that uses the back side of the player board. Where I think in campaign it's only one player. You use one of the player boards for yourself and your stats, and one for the back, which shows you all these different upgrades you can get. I've never done the campaign mode. I don't know exactly how to do it, but just to throw it out there, that is another thing that comes in this game.
Yeah, that's another thing that comes in the game.
So what about as far as options and things to do in the game? Do you feel like there's a lot of cool stuff, strategic options?
Well, I got to say, even just normally, I do think there's a lot of strategic or whatever. I can't speak. But this helps it a lot too. I really like the fact that you can actually choose which attack you do. That way the fighting is a little more strategy. Do you want to be defensive or do you want to be boom?
Actually, that's huge to me because.
Or do you just want to be normal?
Dice combat can be fun in general, but sometimes dice combat can be too luck based. And I like the fact that this gives you the chance to be more. You can go risky or you can go more safe. You can choose how risky you want to be. I like that a lot.
Yeah, that's cool.
And even in as far as going through the dungeon, by the time you finish a dungeon and then you go to the next area, you'll shuffle the cards, you'll put out a new set of cards. So you're always moving through a new room. Now, you might encounter the same monsters, the same rooms, but a lot of times they'll be different. And since you get to choose which path you want to take, it makes it to where each run-through, there's something different.
Yeah, every time you don't know what you're going to find.
Yeah, the combination of rooms that make up that particular area is different, and sometimes it might be worth it to fight a monster instead of go towards something that's more treasury if you really want experience.
Yeah, if you really want experience, it can be really good.
Yeah, and honestly, especially if you have a lot of armor, you might know, hey, if you've been building up a lot of armor, you may know that monster, unless they roll a 6, which gives them armor piercing, they almost can't hurt me. So you can purposely prepare yourself to fight monsters, or you can focus on getting potions so you can heal yourself or poison people. There's just a lot of great stuff, and even picking your character at the beginning. They all have their own special abilities that make it to where each time you play, choosing who you pick makes a difference.
It does.
It's a strategic choice at the very beginning of the game. So yeah,
I am glad every character isn't just the same.
Yeah, they give you a lot of good options. It gives you good variety. A healer, you got the Crusader who's more defensive, and you've got the Wizard who has a lot of powerful spells. So
and the expansion helps to have more classes.
Yeah, the expansion helps to add even more, and more rooms.
And more rooms.
So overall, let's just go ahead and move on to our final opinion. What would you rate Mini Rogue?
Now, I gotta say, I am a huge fan of roguelikes and video games, so I would have to give this a 9.
I think that's a good rating. I agree, a 9. Because we both really like roguelikes. And
they're very addictive, too.
For those who know what roguelikes are, some examples of some of the ones that we really like. We like Cave Blazers.
Cave Blazers.
We like A Robot Named Fight.
A Robot Named Fight.
Streets of Rogue.
Streets of Rogue.
And we haven't even played some of the other really big popular ones. I know there's other ones like Hades is a big popular one, and Dead Cells haven't even played that. But we've played lots of other roguelikes, and we really like them. Are there the other ones that come to your mind that we really like? I know we've played more.
I think so too. I'm pretty sure we did. Well,
those are just the ones that we played the most.
Well, recently. Enter the Gungeon too.
Oh yeah, Enter the Gungeon.
We didn't play that one that long.
Not as much as some of the other ones. No. But roguelikes are.
We play the underrated games.
Not as well known. Yeah. But yeah, we really like roguelikes. So for anyone who likes a roguelike video game that would like to see something similar in a board game, I'd say this does a good job.
Yeah, I'd say so too.
Because just like in a roguelike video game, there's an RPG elements. You get some level up stuff, or you get some bonuses, some items, and then you're going through a randomly generated dungeon. A roguelike has randomly generated areas.
Yeah, that's the cool thing. See, I gotta say, if this was always the same,
That would not be as interesting.
Then you get old.
But here you never know what you're going to see. You never know. You might even have a floor that has no monsters, depending on how you shuffle and reset the new area. So, or there could be tons of traps, or there could just be who knows what. There's so much going on. And then with the expansion, with the addition of the lore deck, which I'm not going to show anything too close because I don't want anyone to see exactly in case it's too much. Spoiler alert. I'm going to just show one. If you want to look at it, you can. I don't want to spoil too much, but.
You can just pause the video maybe if you want to see the whole thing.
Yeah, but the thing is, this is another thing that adds a lot to it because it adds a little bit of story, a little bit of interest, and some options and other things. So this just gives a surprisingly effective roguelike experience in a tiny little box. I mean, this box is itty bitty. It's not. It's just tiny.
And honestly, it does look. It looks a little cheap.
It does, but
those legs on the hero, they look pretty scrawny.
But what really made me want to get this is the fact that I read that it was really intended to be like a roguelike. That's what let me know I should give it a shot, and I'm glad I did.
And it's got rogue in the title.
Yeah, it really hits that sweet spot for scratching that itch. Now, it is a kind of a long game, don't get me wrong. It takes a little while to play.
There we go.
What do you think about the length of the game before we close?
I mean, it is long, so I would say the replayability.
They say 30 minutes. Honestly, I think it's longer than that.
I think so, too. I'd say...
How could you get through all those floors in 30 minutes? I mean, I will say this. If you played by yourself, one player, it'd be faster.
Yeah, but...
With two people, you're taking more time making decisions and talking about things.
Because we made a playthrough, actually, that took like 51 minutes, and we didn't even finish the whole game.
Yeah, which probably the 30 minutes is mainly if it's a one-player game, or if you have people who are just making really quick decisions. But still, it hits the spot, and even though it's long, I enjoy it. I can enjoy it all the way through. I mean, it's a long game, but it doesn't overstay its welcome to me. I enjoy it the whole time.
Yeah, I like it too. It's just the replayability, not so much, but I like the game a lot.
So you think the replayability is okay?
Yeah, I mean... I'd be willing to play like maybe once a week.
To me, the replayability, well, I might agree with that because just because of the length of time and the investment of, but once a week, easy. Yeah, I can do that because it really does offer a great RPG experience. Yeah. So that's a long belabored discussion of this game is really good. If you like roguelikes, we recommend it. And if you don't like roguelikes, but you don't know if you like roguelikes, you never played one. If you like RPGs and you like the random dungeon aspect and all that stuff, I think you'd like it.
Yeah, speaking of which, I'm hearing all this liking. Like and subscribe, too!
Like and subscribe if you want to see more. Yeah. And we look forward to seeing you all on the next one. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Winding up. Bye!